I am going to throw out the ultimate writing prompt tonight. Your assignment, write your own obituary. What would you say? I'm thinking about this following the death of my partner Naomi's father on February 25th. Eric Lizeroff was 96 and had a fascinating life. I wrote Eric's obituary that appeared on the website of the funeral home, along with a very short version for the Journal News. How did I summarize his 96 years? Let's start at the beginning. He was born in Dresden, Germany in 1925 and had the last bar mitzvah in Dresden weeks before the main synagogue there was torched during Kristallnacht. He and his mother got out on one of the very last trains, arriving in Lisbon in mid-June 1941, then sailing to New York. In 1944, teenage Eric volunteered for the U.S. Army. Assigned to the 89th Infantry Division, he put his German fluency to work interrogating prisoners in Germany and Austria. Eric was with one of the first groups of GIs to reach the Ohrdruf concentration camp. He returned to the U.S. in 1946, just 19 years old, in pursuit of what he called a boring life. He spent 57 years at one job, a salesman of fancy paper. He married Cecilia Katz in 1950, and they were loving partners for 68 years. Well, this piece earned rave reviews when I posted it on LinkedIn. My younger brother read it, then called me to say, "I want you to write my obituary." I said, "Let's talk about that in 30 years. Or maybe sooner than that. Writing your obituary is like prudent estate planning. You never know when it'll come in handy. I've always remembered somebody who did exactly that. I read a memorial in the Princeton Alumni Weekly. A class secretary had written the class notes for his graduating class for many decades. He died and a memorial duly appeared. The last paragraph noted that the man had written it himself except the final few sentences. That really stopped me cold. I've joked that my obituary would be ideally a rewrite of my J-Date profile 20 years ago. What a swell guy I am, or given the circumstances, was. I'm reminded of what Winston Churchill said. History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it. But how do you capture a life beyond the basics? What would you or I write about ourselves in a final summing up for those that remain? Would we write something comforting and yet wryly self-observant, hitting the high points and the proverbial warts and all? You know, that's really tough to think about. In considering this piece, thought patterns from decades past flooded back. My younger self was self-denigrating and pitying, obsessed with failures and unmet potential. There was the time a significant other termed me a self-involved prick who just doesn't get it. That would be an epitaph, wouldn't it? But with age, perspective, and forgiveness, that's not who I am. I've moved past that. I've moved past being my own worst critic to a more accepting stage. I would try to say that in my obituary. Maybe I would do multiple versions of it for different audiences. Obviously, I'd need one for the back of the book memorials in the Princeton Alumni Weekly. And maybe I'd do a final Facebook entry complete with favorite photos, since I'm always eager to illustrate my writings. Well, getting back to what other people have talked about tonight, given the world state, I may be whistling past the graveyard on all this. Maybe Vladimir Putin will work out his psychological issues by starting World War III. Well, the world will need a lot of obituaries at that point, and mine would probably get lost in the shuffle. Again, Winston Churchill had a fitting comment in the dreadful year 1941. If we win, nobody will care. If we lose, there will be nobody to care. But I'm going to end, in every sense of the word, on a high note, something that I've said before. There's no statute of limitations on changing your life. I know, because I'm still doing that, and I'm still writing about it all. And that's what I would try to capture in my obituary. Thank you.
Wow. Boy, yeah, I like the idea of multiple versions of your obituary. I'm going to keep that in mind. And your friend coming to New York, that brought back memories. My grandmother was 17 when she came to New York on a boat. Spoke no English, and I remember her telling me about walking her very first memories about being in America. So.
When did she come over?
She had to come over. God, when was it? I'm going to say in the probably around. I'm going to say about 1940.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure about that now. Where did she come from? Well, it was actually at the